What's going on, guys? I'm Matt, and this is the Apex Destiny 2 podcast, episode number 4.
The stream's not even loading on my computer.
It's not? Am I live right now? Can you guys hear me? I think I'm live.
Because our internet sucks.
Yeah, they got me. Boba can hear it. All right, awesome. So as you can see, we got a new face here. It's not Legion.
Did you lose? I lost that.
Ooh. My Rapid's lagging now.
I can't hear you.
Yeah. No, you're lagging. Face, can you hear me?
My internet's pooping.
Yeah. We might have to leave the call and
Matt,
then
you
join
hear me?
again. Can you guys hear me?
Now I can.
All right. Rapid's frozen, and I could barely hear him. So let's leave the call and start it over. Sorry, guys.
That is frozen. Okay.
Up.
Are we getting better?
I think
We got it now. Yep.
Okay.
So let's start this again, guys. Sorry about the technical difficulties. So I'm Matt, and this is the Apex Destiny 2 podcast. We're on episode number 4. You can find us at our Discord link below. We also have links to our YouTube, which we post all of our podcast content on,
It's not the first one.
and our individual Twitter handles as well. So we have a new guest, or our first guest, I should say, Mr. RapidRabbit. Legion's taking a day. He's got his family over, so he's going to spend some time with his fam. But I think we have a pretty good show for you guys. We're going to talk about the TWAB first, but the topic is how the casual player fits into the Destiny 2 universe. So I think this is going to be a good one. So what we got on the TWAB this week, guys? I read it briefly before.
Quite
Hello?
a few things about like what's coming up. Specifically, Steam
Shadowkeep.
Transfer and Cross Save are coming up.
I'm excited for that. The 21st, I believe, right? We're getting some cross-save action.
Well, I'm curious. It says Steam Transfer on the 20th. Now, of course, the game doesn't actually launch on Steam until October 1st, so I imagine that this is just part of the cross save. Like they're going to have BNet as a cross save platform until they get Steam, or until it launches on Steam. So it looks like on August 20th we'll be able to link our BNet and our Steam accounts. And on the 21st, I could link my PS4 account to my Bungie account, and then I could. It sounds like on August 21st, I'll be able to go sit out in my living room and play Destiny 2 on the big TV with a controller. So that'll be interesting. I feel like the information they gave us makes it sound like this is the full cross save, but
I agree.
kind of glossed over it a little bit for it to actually be the full cross save. So we'll have to find out on that.
I got to tell you, at this point, it's feeling like a little too little information too late. I feel like they have told us multiple times already that we're gonna tell you, and we're getting very close to where at least pieces of these are starting to happen. And I don't feel well prepared for that. I feel like you just explained it, and I'm still confused.
Well, are you saying that from like a developing API stuff point of view, or like a you have no idea where all your stuff is going to be?
No, I'm going to be honest. Just as a player reading the TWAB, other than having real links for where this is going to take place, I don't feel more educated after reading this week's TWAB on either one of these topics. I feel like they're glossing over all of the things that I would really like specifics on. Like, just give us a scenario of what cross save looks like.
Well, I feel like they have. Maybe, do you have a specific question that I might be able to answer on that?
I think one of those is the timeline, because I've kind of heard mixed information this week.
Lost
Hang
your
on.
video feed there, Rapid. Yep.
I noticed. Hang on. Let me see if I can rectify that. 1 second.
You're good. I mean, at this point, I kind of agree with Rapid. Like, we get a little clip of of something happening between like a cross save scenario, like maybe a PC player. Well, that's not logical,
Well, yeah,
but like
I mean that's super easy. Like,
yeah,
let's say that so on August 22nd, I've linked my BNet and I've linked my PS4 accounts. I
yeah,
never ended up buying Forsaken or the annual pass on PS4. I swapped to
mhm,
PC right after Osiris launched, like February, I think. But I had bought the whole season pass, so I have through Warmind on my PS4. So
yeah,
on August 22nd, once cross save is live, and I get home from work and I'm tired and I don't want to bother with my PC for some reason. I don't know why I wouldn't, but I go out and I decide to intake one of my favorite pastimes on a shittier console with less graphics and longer load times.
30
Right?
FPS.
I could just log into my PS4 account, boot up Destiny 2, and it's the exact same thing that I have on my PC. From everything that I know and from what they've said, it sounds like it's essentially the same as if you were to go to your cousin's house and sign on to their PC and
Yeah,
open it up. It's just that I would have to rebuy Forsaken and all that over on my PS4 if I wanted to do that. I could still go to
yeah.
those areas that I have unlocked, but I wouldn't be able to do any
See,
of like the raids or anything like that.
here's my issue, right? So the 21st, they're saying the cross save is going to be implemented, right? Now that doesn't mean New Light's coming out. New Light's coming out on October 1st, right?
Correct.
So players that don't own the game on, let's say, their Xbox, but they have it on PC, really can't migrate over unless they pay for the game, right?
They're
So
SOL
like,
for now. Yep.
yeah, so like, is there a discount for those for that? Did they even try to like
I
resell it
would
in a way? I
say
don't even know.
if you have a compelling reason to move to Xbox from PS4, you've probably already done it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you can wait another 2 weeks or another
Yeah,
month, I suppose.
maybe they did it also to get it like maybe slower integration for the cross save, right? I don't know.
So
Maybe.
I think right now for me, there's a lack of clarity on what is happening August 21st and what is happening October 1st. Because it sounds like August 20th or 21st, we're opening up the ability to migrate your account to Steam or to link your BattleNet to your Steam. But this is not giving you access to the game in any capacity
Correct.
because the game
Yeah,
is not ready on Steam. I don't get that from the TWAP. I get that from talking to you, and I think I understood that after reading between the lines, but I don't feel like they have done a good job of communicating to players. Here's what needs to happen on this date. Here's when you get access to the game. Here's what you can do once you have the game. And I don't feel like they have put together I when I think of like the Nintendo Switch launch, how they showed how the device works and how it converted, right? I feel like they need to sit somebody down in front of a PS4, sit somebody
hmm,
down in front of an Xbox. This is what cross save looks like. This is the gear that you can pull across. These are the zones that you can
yeah.
navigate to. That's not a hard thing to put together for marketing.
And I agree, and it goes further than that, right? Let's say, Face, you just said on your PlayStation you only have up to Warmind, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on your PC, I know you're up to par, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have everything. So now let's say you go and you bring your PC account to your PS4, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go into the Dreaming City, because I know you can do that. I don't
Yep.
know, right? Are you going to be able to use the weapons you've already acquired,
Yeah,
even
you'll
though
have
you don't have
everything on
that
your
DLC
account.
there?
You just won't be able to it'll be your account. You just won't have
Hmm.
access to the content.
So the content, but you have what you've earned already, let's say.
Yeah, it's the same account.
Okay.
You just don't have license to that platform's version. Personally, the only thing that like this is mostly going to affect people. I really don't know of anything outside of a few anecdotes of people saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to move to Xbox when it comes live." I'm not sure why you'd want to transfer specifically between consoles. I guess unless you're switching consoles at the start of a new generation.
I think that would be more logical for people. Not a lot of people own like, I guess, gaming PCs, but I'm not.
Well, there are a lot of people coming to PC though. I'm in a
Yeah.
few
Oh
PS4
yeah.
Facebook groups.
It's
So yeah,
excited for them.
I didn't find the TWAB super confusing, but it would never hurt to have more info. Now, I would definitely prefer to see this mod thing that they're coming up with on the 14th, I think. Yeah, on the 14th, they're going to do a live stream about how the new mod system works on Armor. I would much
Yeah.
rather have that than a cross save thing. Because
But
the
I
mod thing is
agree.
something that's going to be in effect for like hopefully ever, whereas cross save is going to affect us for a week while
Yeah.
we figure it out.
I agree, but I feel like a small 1 to 2 minute video would explain that and have a lot of people less confused, and then you could spend the rest of your time on, the mod video. And also, what else are we getting? They're talking about Crucible in there, which is super exciting, right? Where they're doing a PvP reveal for Shadowkeep, right?
Yeah, I'm preparing to
1 second.
put my foot in my mouth because I remember when Drifter came out, I was like, oh, well, yeah, if they made a season all about Crucible, I'd hate that too. But I'd still play the game. And now they're prepping to do it. And I've got to get ready for that. So that'll be interesting.
I just feel like this was the TWAB before the TWAB. I feel like it was very light on information and very much on communicating dates for giving us that information. But like, I think everything that we're talking about here, literally all of the dates and things, these are things they've been telling us that they were going to talk to us about in late summer. I just feel like first, second week of August, where we're at in this, we've had so little information on all of these topics that, yes, I'm absolutely glad to have some dates for when we're going to find out more. I just really felt like this TWAB should have had more.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember if last year they did a lot of TWABs that gave us info for the new things in Forsaken, or if they just gave us some of that info. That'll be interesting to see. Maybe Luke
right.
Smith will tell us more in his director's cut or something.
Yeah,
in the
perfect.
second
That's
half.
what I was going to
Yep.
talk about next. Like, we got this big director's cut with Luke Smith coming next
That's
week.
huge.
He's saying, yeah, and he said it's like 8 pages, not double spaced, which is kind of crazy, and that's only like half of it.
That's totally
I'm
what I
just-
want from Bungie. 100%.
Well, we're getting it. It's just going to be on their timeline.
Yeah, that's
You
Well,
know
we're
what I
also
mean?
getting it through Twitter, which is kind of weird. Like, why wouldn't you put that up on the site?
No, he's going to, but
Oh, is he?
that's just
Okay.
his update. His update is on Twitter. He's not
Gotcha.
going to post. That'd be like 300
Right.
tweets minimum.
Sure.
That'd be insane. Oh, Legion, come on. We should totally have a Luke Smith read along on Twitch. That'd be a blast.
Could have face narrate.
Like
It'd
the
be
night
great.
it comes out, just read through it and give us our info. Anyway, other stuff in the TWAB. Just a bunch of things that they'll be telling us between now and October. In hindsight, them not telling us a lot ahead of time kind of makes sense because there was still stuff to talk about from Opulence, and now
Sure.
they have time up until October 1st. Yeah, and then of course the change that everyone loved and no one really thought that they would respond to so quickly, the reducing the mini bosses down to 50 and giving us 5 points for killing the final boss at the end of that event.
That really surprised me. I'm not used to getting hot fixes. Where to go, Bungie?
That'll be nice. And now I'm actually worried that I'm gonna have to farm chests more than bosses. But we'll see.
It definitely changes up the event. 100%. I'm just my initial reaction is just what they fixed it.
Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah,
It's nice.
I'm excited about it. It's a good move.
It is. It really is. But it just boggles the mind that we waited so long for Lord of Wolves. Like, is
Yeah.
it is it
wasn't an
fair?
issue.
Is it fair to say that Lord of Wolves really changed the PvP experience of this entire summer at this point?
No, it's not.
I mean, there's your arguments for yes and your arguments for no. Like, I've definitely got like owned by that gun a bunch, but guess what? I'm
That
still
just-
getting owned by that gun a bunch. So, I mean,
I don't
That is
know.
what
Like
it is.
them changing up the meta randomly like that is kind of cool.
I
It's
don't
irritating when you get
disagree
killed
with
by
it. It's just interesting to see them come out and say, "Yeah, we agree we need to fix it, but we just don't have the time right now." And then in the middle of one of their events, making an adjustment this major that quickly to the game, you start to question, is it really that hard to patch the game?
Well,
I mean,
they can
okay,
do it
this
quickly
adjustment and
certain
changing the way a weapon works. I feel like those are
Well-
completely different tiers of
That's
editing
fair.
code.
That is
well,
fair.
they're also
but
hard
in
at
an
work.
entire summer versus a week?
Well,
Or
if all
two?
you have to do is change a number on an armor piece,
Okay.
I don't know.
I think it's a lot harder than that, and it goes deeper into that. And
Hopefully,
don't forget,
Luke
they
will
have.
give us more info on that as well, on like why certain things have to stick around.
Am I muted?
No, you're there.
I hear you.
No, that's fine. I don't know, because I feel like, yes, you could say it's an easy fix, but they have a content drop not too far down the line here. They have a lot of, manpower on. And I don't think it was that big of an issue where it needed to be addressed on the spot. Like, at least do it the right way and maybe not over nerf it. And I don't think they over nerfed it.
I agree with that. 100%.
Avatar, I'm going to get you for that one.
I think the only thing I can complain about is not the nerf, but the time that it took to get it, and kind of the tone that Bungie took. Right, like they're gonna press into it. It just changed the meta, so we're gonna roll with the meta being different for a long time, and I just feel like they didn't press in this case. They responded immediately to player feedback, and changed the event, not even in the middle.
Last I'll say about this, because we should move on to the actual topic.
Yeah.
Spinfoil hat time. This was a test to see what sort of changes people would take in the Crucible for when they redo the Crucible next year. Do people want to be able to kill supers more quickly, or is having stuff like that in the game just break it to the point where people who don't know how to stay away from corners and hallways end up crying about a weapon being broken?
Sure.
So I guess we'll see.
All right. On to the main topic, guys.
Sure.
So, how does the casual player fit into the Destiny 2 universe?
Is that the first question?
No, that's the topic.
Okay.
So we're gonna
So what do
have
you-
an
so what do you-
intro piece, or is there a first question?
The first question is, what do you guys consider a casual player?
You can go first.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rapid.
Yeah, I will gladly take this one. So in my mind, I think a lot of people approach this formulaically, and they're like, we're going to classify a casual player as someone that engages less than 10 hours a week. On the playtime question, I'm going to call a casual player somebody that doesn't engage with the game enough to get the core Destiny experience. Right? That means engages with the game enough that they have the required exotics for gameplay, because we are in a meta where certain exotics are required, especially if you're going to go raiding or something like that. But when we get into raid loadouts, it gets a little more challenging, right? Because some of the best loadouts for raid and for PvE content in general come from PvP. Right. And so someone that is trying to engage with the game in a slice, like they really just want to play PvE content, they want to play raids, but they just don't have 10 hours a week or 5 hours a week or really any consistent amount of time to get the game. I describe these as the dads, the people that work, that have children, that have life. And video games is something that they do to unwind, but their schedule for it's kind of irregular. It's when they can break away from other stuff. And I think that the reason that I like this topic, just in general, is that we touch on D2 vanilla, right? And we kind of get to triage in post that we know now Bungie was not trying to go after the casual player, right? This was a developer crunch problem that they could not in 8 months build a proper mod system, and have things like random rolls at launch. I am so sorry my video went out again, but that was the end of my piece. So I'll troubleshoot this and you guys can respond.
Yeah, I would say about the same. The dads of Destiny was a good term to use. Somebody that plays the game but can't invest the amount of time that a quote unquote hardcore player would, right? Like we have a lot of raid. I have a lot of raid clears, whereas like maybe a guy that has kids and a family and a crazy hour job might only have like 3 of each raid clear. I would consider that a casual player. He knows what he's doing, or she knows what they're doing, but they just don't have the time to invest. But also maybe because they don't like the game enough to invest as much as we do. You know what I mean? So I would consider that a casual player. And then Anbu, you would definitely go down as a hardcore player, doing your 5 raids a day, or whatever it's gone up to now. That would be considered for me hardcore. I also don't consider myself hardcore. I play frequently enough to not be considered casual either, I guess. But yeah, I guess there's an in between there too.
But I think there's also this we define the casual, so we have to define the hardcore. And I think there's
Mm-hmm.
actually a lot of middle ground between those two terms. But I'm going to go ahead and define hardcore as kind of our
Go ahead.
apex omega requirements. You own all of the DLC. You play at least once per season, right?
Okay.
It's somebody that engages with the game regular enough that if they don't have the regular guns or loadouts, it's either really unlucky RNG or they just need to get good.
I think that's a bit of an idealized view of Omega, but
Okay, that's fair.
I can see that. See, I kind of completely disagree with both of you on
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I think what you said there, Rabbit, at the end, um, they play the game to unwind. That is what I would consider to be more casual. Like, I play WoW in an ideal week. I play WoW about 4 hours a week with Beaker's raid group, but I'd still consider myself at very least a hardcore minded player. I'm not grinding out mythics, but I'm also not gonna just go in and not know anything. I play the game because I enjoy being good at the game and I enjoy partaking in the mass of what it has to offer. In Destiny, I don't think that just because you don't play the game a lot means that you're a casual player. Now, those people who play like 1 or 2 hours a week, which I am a little worried now because I realize I play that in like a day.
Mm-hmm.
They could still be very good players who want to get to the end game and want to do all that. I would say that a casual is someone who plays the game because they enjoy playing the game, whereas a hardcore would be someone who plays the game because they want to be the best at the game and they're willing to put in a significant amount of effort in order to get to that point. I guess that's not really disagreeing, but more just a slightly different way to quantify it.
Well, I think you can be a poor hardcore player. So tell me, Face, what would you consider a bad hardcore player? Somebody that thinks they're good, but they're really not that good.
It's a good question. Um, I don't know.
Stumped him.
A bad hardcore player.
That would be
See,
me.
I feel like that's kind of a casual because if you're well, you could be a bad hardcore player for a few reasons. One, you're just bad at aiming. I know someone who's like that. But because he comes from other MMO games, he knows about like ad spawns and how to manipulate ads and all sorts of positioning stuff. So he's able to make up for that bad bad aiming with other things in the game. Or you might be not the best at knowing where ads are, but if you can hit everything and kill it in one shot, it doesn't matter that much.
Yep.
I guess that maybe that's a bad hardcore player, but like they're still engaged in the game and they're still learning about how the aim works, even if they're unable to actually do that bit.
Now, do you have to be good to be a hardcore player then, based on what you're saying? Like, can you just be horrible and still be considered a hardcore player?
Well, I think there's a subtle nuance between what I'm saying and what he's saying, mostly because I make a lot of assumptions in my argument here. The first assumption being that your skill at the game is a product of playtime.
Okay.
I think we can agree that your skill at the game is not going to be good until you get over a playtime threshold. Because every game is different to a degree. The shooting mechanics in this game certainly differ from, say, Apex Legends. So
Yeah.
I think a good player coming into this game cold is still going to have an adjustment period. If they're only playing, say, 5 hours a week, they're going to have a couple bad months probably while they
No,
learn
I
some
think
of the
that
mechanics we
depends.
have.
Yeah, but that depends on the player too. I mean, you got some players that just pick things up really quick and
That's true.
then they're fine, But yeah, I can see what you're saying. So to follow that up, how much time would you consider a casual player needing to put in the game to be considered a casual? Or like, you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I think it bounces off of what I was just saying, which
Hmm.
I think the first topic we can kind of break that down a little bit is, do we agree that skill is a product of playtime, at least to some degree?
To a degree, yeah. I guess then what differs in a hardcore player versus a casual player,
Hmm.
they could have the same amount of time, but a casual player, in my opinion, would be playing the game to enjoy the game. So they might spend 5 hours playing and be at the same level as when they started. Whereas if a hardcore player goes into a raid, um, like slash flex a little bit here, Bucket, Johnny, and I did a 3-man Crown of Sorrows this weekend. Uh, and that's totally a perfect example of hardcore mindset. You go into the raid,
Yeah.
you start off doing one thing, and it doesn't work. And you totally thought it would work. And you're like, okay, let me change this loadout. Let us do this different thing. And because we're playing, because we want to be the best, we're going to change the way we play in order to do that because we're prioritizing completing a certain goal over just generally having fun. Not that hardcore players can't have fun, but like LMGs are fun. You won't see me caught dead using one on a boss.
That's the
Sure.
4th episode in a row now that he's brought up LMGs. I just wanted to point that
I
out.
have to. The people
Also,
demand it.
oh, oh, I had something to say, and now that joke just, I lost it.
So as to like what hour do I think someone turns from a casual into a hardcore? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. A hardcore player is going to play the game with the intent of improving, and then once they're good enough, maybe they'll do some stuff to just chill and have fun.
But I think
Well,
we also brought up, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I think we've also brought up that different people coming into this game are going to have a different amount of hours that they need to invest before they get good. So I think it actually just muddies the point even further to say that hardcore is good, because getting good at this game is going to take a variable amount of time to begin with.
So I guess um, with my edited version of hardcore, you could have a bad hardcore player. You could have someone who thinks that they're trying to improve and is trying to do stuff like Crown of Ease, but ends up bringing a hammerhead into a Crown of Ease run at the end. Like, okay, you're trying to improve and you're trying to do endgame stuff, but I don't know if you're just missing the point or if you're still prioritizing, or maybe you're just not hardcore and you're still prioritizing just having fun. I guess a bad hardcore player is just wrong.
I don't know. I don't know. There's a couple casual players that I actually know that just don't even touch end game content. So I would actually like to change my answer to being players that do not touch end game content but still are enjoying their time with Destiny, whether it's doing PvP or strikes for whatever whatever their flavor is really. But I know plenty of them that don't touch raids. You know what I mean? They won't touch competitive either.
Well,
So
that's just being smart.
that's, I mean, well, competitive, yeah. But I would consider that a complete casual, where you're really not experiencing the back end of the game, right? You're just kind of doing the very basics.
You're just kind of chilling, having fun. You're not worried
Yeah,
about
like
doing anything
you
high
enjoy
end.
it enough. Maybe you enjoy the gunplay, whatever it is. But you're not going in there like Facehead trying to be the best. So when we're all doing the raid the first time, we're trying to be the best ever.
Sure. Yeah. I completely agree with where you're coming from. I think to go back to the core topic a little bit that we have here. Um, 1 second.
You're good.
I think that we're kind of asking the question of, how does a casual player fit into the Destiny 2 universe? And on
Okay.
this subtopic, we're talking about how playtime kind of factors into that. And I think my video went out again. I can fix this. 2 seconds. This is my life right now.
Just a black screen.
Okay.
In a hand.
Are we back? All right, we're back. Okay, sorry. So I think in regards to playtime, I think I would bring up that Destiny is a completely different experience to a lot of different people. And what I mean by that is that when we start talking about casual players, by the definition, that this is someone that does not engage with the game on a consistent or regular basis, these are going to be your group that is most likely just playing Gambit or just playing PvP or just running strikes. And they probably don't have the optimized loadout to play raids. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think in this group there's a very high percentage that have never attempted a raid.
Yeah.
And I think that loadout and optimization and fear over that does actually cause an issue there. You get a lot of players that will never attempt a raid because every raid says needs outbreak. And they don't play the game to even know what 0 hour is. It's actually a hidden mission in the game if you don't Google it.
Wow, it is. I guess Whisper was too
True.
until they gave us that little quest to do it.
Correct. So, like, when we're talking about, I guess what I'm going to define as the true casual that's coming from other games, and Destiny is probably their first MMO. I think that this looks like a very different game. Could you imagine describing Destiny to someone for the first time that has never played any game like this? They don't play the Division. You know, they're probably coming off of like Apex Legends and Fortnite. How do you describe the Destiny experience? Because they're not going to play everything. Like I think it's a tough requirement to ask a new player coming in with new light, hey, you know, this is a game where you really have to play every mode.
Well, I think that view is tinted a lot by the work I do to make sure that people know what sort of stuff is good in the server. I try very hard to make sure that people are like, one of my personal goals for the server is for everyone to be able and ready to go get whatever raid they need done in PC D2 LFG without getting laughed at or like, hey, you don't have this or you don't need that. Like, you should know what all the recs are, or you should know what sort of weapons you can use. You should know what sort of strats people use, and you shouldn't feel uncomfortable in the raids. That's something that I like to do. So I think that
Hmm.
well, talk a lot about these are the things we should be using. In reality, you can get away with a lot in a lot of raids without needing like the one specific loadout that I say.
I mean, and he definitely does a great job of telling players what not to use, like LMGs. So that's there.
Yes,
I
it
put on
is.
LMG yesterday, thank you.
Did you?
I did. I took it off immediately, but still.
All right. So now I'm going to ask you, if you're a casual player, do you think that it's important to have 3 characters to get the best experience from the game?
Going with my idea that casual players are players who play the game, just to chill and have fun and don't really care about the more goal-oriented stuff in the game, I don't think so. I don't think they need to have 3 different characters. We mostly have 3 characters because it reduces the amount of grind, and
Mm-hmm.
I suppose it technically increases the amount of grind because you have to do 3 characters every week, but it
Mm-hmm.
decreases the length of time it'll take to get to cap. And we like to be able to fill into a raid, especially since there are only 3 roles.
Yeah. I,
I don't think a casual would need um, to have 3 characters.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Face on this one. I think if you're a casual player, you're not a player that's looking to do day 1 raids. You know what I mean? So grinding to get to the most power level that you can isn't really a factor for you. So you could kind of just enjoy the game having the 1 or 2 characters and not have to like really focus about grinding all 3 characters. I feel like that's a straight up hardcore thing. For like what Face was saying, it's like you're like min maxing, you're trying to get to the highest possible level. You're trying to get for like the raid coming out that Saturday, right? On the 4th and 5th, the weekend of that. So you're gonna wanna, have all your characters going, try to get the highest you possibly could be for that experience. If that makes any sense.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. I think the MMO term brings a lot to this when we talk about time engagement and players and things like that. But I don't think there's an MMO out there that really supports the number of ways to engage with the game that Destiny does. I think there are MMOs out there with more subclasses, more abilities, more play types, absolutely. But I don't think there's a lot that have really engaged into a PvE experience or run the type of events that we do or drop the exotics as part of a quest like this. I can argue that I have not played a lot of MMOs myself. Destiny is probably my first MMO, but I think it is fair to actually call Destiny MMO light.
Yeah,
And
I was actually gonna say.
and that is
Agree.
closer to your Fallout 76 or the Division. When you start calling Destiny an MMO, I think it's a little exclusive to some of these other games as competitors to Destiny, because that certainly is saying that they're going after a more hardcore experience than some of those other games I mentioned are giving you today, because they are MMO light games. We've gotten to the point where Assassin's Creed Odyssey and what was the other game? Far Cry New Dawn are actually starting to implement the breakable weapons and buildable weapons to the point where this is becoming an MMO like experience, and multiple players can be on a server. But am I the only one that thinks that like 9 consistent players on a planet automatically disqualifies Destiny as an MMO? Like when
You
we
mean
talk massively, I'm sorry?
because there's too few?
Correct. Too few on an instance server, right? I think of like the EVE Online terms of scalability and player counts, where this is actually massively multiplayer. I mean, realistically, you're playing with less counts than a Call of Duty PvP game here.
I
But
complain
I
about
think
this
I think
all
that's
the time.
hard to call massively.
Yeah.
Well, so I complain about the size issue all the time. Destiny is really like a 5-person game. So attempting to have a group of like 700 people interact with each other is really difficult, especially because if it were WoW or Guild Wars, I could get like 100 people in a group and we could go kill just random people around the world and it'd be fine. In Destiny, I think the most people I can play with at one time would be 11 in a Crucible match. And even
Mhm.
that's like, no one actually really does that because it's just weird. See, what I think, but a further part of the issue is that when they say MMO, they don't mean the massively multiplayer online part of the MMO. They mean the RPG part of the MMO.
Yep.
The
That's
part
what I
of
was getting
you
at.
get
Yeah.
builds, stuff like that. I think what did
Now,
Borderlands
is that
call themselves?
MMO light though? Is that what the term means? Is RPG mechanics in a typically FPS game, or is that not what MMO light means?
Well, maybe they're striving for the numbers in their next content. Who knows what that is actually going to be? If they're actually going to go like crazier on the RPG side. I know we're getting like 3 more statistics added in there from the first game, so
Mhm.
that's a start. So we don't know exactly what we're looking at when Shadowkeep launches.
Sure.
And who knows? It could grow. I'm not saying it's in a place right now where it's going to be massive. I know there's pretty small player base right now, but I remember on Destiny 1 it had like 20 million like concurrent players.
Really?
So if it could get back there, that's pretty crazy.
It is.
Interesting.
It's great numbers.
Yeah.
But I think where I'm going with this is that Destiny is really different in terms of an MMO
Oh
and the
yeah. You're
number
not
of
wrong.
systems that players engage with simultaneously. Like they want you very much to run through this gameplay loop of strikes, gambit, raid for the week, PvP.
PvP.
Absolutely. And all of their quests back up that gameplay loop to the point where almost anything in this game that is grindy can be completed just by running the loop multiple times. And
Mhm.
that is an interesting gameplay mechanic to implement, because I would argue that I think by you guys' definition that we kind of agreed on here, that hardcore is a player that is trying to be good at the game. That very much describes the vocal minority of this game. Right? That is the Reddit community, in my opinion. I think that our game actually has a silent majority that does not, really any of them, engage with this game through this gameplay loop. They don't
Yeah.
have they do not have 3 characters, right? And
Mhm.
they don't have 3 characters because they don't like the play style of one of those characters in the same way that somebody doesn't like PvP or doesn't like Gambit. They don't run 3 characters not because they're not trying to be optimized, but they don't find the gameplay fun.
Yeah.
And I think that honestly is the most of people that are playing this game. And I think one of the fears that I have is that the hardcore, for as vocal as they are, really is kind of losing their voice in the community here as they go free to play and as they continue pushing Eververse microtransactions and eventually start to make more money off of Eververse than the core game. I think that's a whole separate conversation for how that could affect Destiny 2 once that
That's
starts
a
happening or if that starts
question for
happening.
another podcast, but yeah,
100%.
definitely. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but I think the casual player is going to engage with only a slice of the content. So to answer the 3 character question, I think for the majority of people that are kind of in the Destiny universe, as we talk about the casual player in the Destiny universe, yes, I think they have a place. I think Bungie has actually built this game to cater to that user. And to be honest, we're only a couple of adjustments away. Like, let's stop putting certain weapons in PvP that are the best weapons for PvE, right? Or let's not make a quest that forces you into PvP if you don't want to be PvP. Let's give you quest options. So Bungie is trying to cater to both the casual and the hardcore when they make an adjustment like that.
So to follow up there, which player group do you think Bungie is catering to then? The casual or the hardcore player?
I think they are the only MMO FPS in the land or MMO light FPS in the land that is still trying to cater to all groups. And I think that other developers laugh at them for it, for even attempting it to begin with. Because I don't think anybody else would even set out to try to do that. It's like, really? You're going to try to balance PvE and PvP weapons? Like, no other game does that.
Well, what about like Borderlands and COD?
Well, except that they're not online. They don't bring the same guns that they're earning in PvE over to PvP and vice versa.
Am I correct in assuming that Call of Duty balances those differently, like the campaign, and then so there's your answer there, and then does Borderlands even have a PvP mode? I'm not a big
really,
Borderlands guy. Yeah.
I was thinking more of in the regards to cater to both the casual and the hardcore.
I actually kind of agree with Rapid here, because I've as a player of Destiny for a long time, I wanted them to kind of cater to the hardcore player more. So maybe we could have more things to do and branch away from the casual activities. I'm quite frankly sick and tired of the loop to grind. I'd like a fresh grind. And that's something Rapid mentioned, that it's Gambit, PvP, dude strikes. It's getting a little tiring, and I know that if I want to go to those endgame places, I have to experience those again and again and again and again.
What would you possibly suggest?
New content, man. New content to grind.
Okay,
Give me something else to grind.
Content to grind in an MMO looks like? It's just a reskin. It's just a reskin of the same areas. You're running around.
Okay, then repurpose
mobs.
things like we talked about in a previous episode. Repurpose things, right? Make EP worth my while again, where something I could grind and get something from in the process of me grinding as well.
And release it alongside a quest that makes you go back to EP and do it.
Well,
there's ways that you could
do that a lot.
Reiterate the content.
But they're not really like Reckoning is the first thing I think that we're seeing them tune after to the fact that they're going to make it easier. I think most of us wanted it actually to be harder in a better way.
Well, okay, that goes into the punishing versus
it does
challenging
100%.
Content.
Yep.
I don't know as to which of them they aim at. I think that they do try to get both of them, and I think that that's awesome. I think that the two groups keep each other in check pretty well, because as someone who likes to consider themselves a fairly hardcore player, I don't play nearly as much as a lot of these other hardcore players do, and I can still keep up with most of it. I may not, I don't do anything in Crucible because I think Crucible's stupid, but I'm able to participate in these raids. I do raid challenges. If I wanted to put in the time, I could. And it's because the casual player base is like, You want us to do how many EAZ mini bosses? Oh wait, that wasn't
Right.
even. I don't even think that was the casual player base. That was people who were like, "This is just a slog. This is stupid."
Correct. Yes, it was really both player classes that agreed on that specific one. But it's another thing, like the first half of COS not needing to be repeated so many times. It's like the challenging versus punishing conversations. A lot of this stuff comes back up just because I think they are problems for both groups. I
Okay.
don't really think it's in competition with one another. I think we all want to see these things changed in different ways. But I think where this question is kind of aimed at is, does the casual player have a point in the universe? And I think Matt kind of is the first one in this conversation to choose a side, so to speak, on that, in saying that he would really prefer if Destiny became a more hardcore focused experience and we started to culling some of these casual players away and making it harder to have an entry to the game, making it so you need to know mechanics and have specialized loadouts. And it's not so much that we're keeping the casual player out so much as we're making the game inaccessible by needing to have so much knowledge to even start to get into it. You know, you get into like EVE Online at that point, where there's an entire currency trading system inside of the game and currency is actually earned. Like, I think those are some of the types of mechanics that Matt would like to see.
I just wanted a deeper experience. Like, I know Face doesn't really care for I guess the way the grind is now. If I
Well, okay, no.
read
See,
you,
I think.
yeah,
Can I go on a little bit of a rant tangent here?
do it up, homie.
Okay,
Go
Go
ahead.
for it.
So, one of my friends that I keep in touch with from Lord of the Rings Online has been bugging me a lot because they recently dropped Tier 5 instances, which is this thing where they take instances, give you a higher tier of them, and they like randomly spawn in mobs. Like say you're doing the Nokris strike, and all of a sudden, Ear Abyssin from the EAZ spawns in on you just randomly, and you're like, oh, that was unexpected. So it's just a different way to break the content. So he bugged me, and I eventually found my account, and I got back on, and I'm playing this game. And one thing that the most distinct difference that I can find between this and Destiny, other than the fact that this is an action bar and that's an FPS, is there's so much to do that isn't different content. Like, so right now they released this new thing that I need to go grind, and you get virtue points for doing stuff. So I've spent an entire day going back and running content that's 70 levels under the under the level cap right now, just because I can improve my my Runekeeper by going and doing that. Destiny doesn't have anything like that. You get the weapon with the perk, and sure, maybe you have to do a little bit to upgrade it, but that's it. And then you're done. And that's it. If they were to add something like badass ranks, even from Borderlands, now doing those strikes for that grind, it wouldn't just be, oh, well, this is boring. I'm doing strikes for grind. This would be, oh, I'm doing strikes. What else do I need to do? Oh, well, I need to level up this thing. I don't know what it would be. Like,
But you're saying you want to see a deeper system then for
I'm
certain
saying I
things,
want
for
different
sure.
systems. I'm not saying I want a different grind necessarily, but rather the
So you
grind
don't
just feels
necessarily need new content for your grind. You just want them to implement systems with the grind that they have now.
there's generally never such a thing as new content. Like I think
For
Gambit would be the
grinding.
newest thing. Even forges are basically just EP. Just you just stand there,
Yeah, I could see that.
defend an area.
Yeah. That's true.
So
That's
I
true.
think that trying to
So
push
it
for
sounds
just
like you
new
kind of
content is a waste of time because you're never going to be content with
All
it.
right, fine. Maybe not new content, but repurpose your content. You got things in the game there that could be, tuned up a little bit and spruced up and have them drop different things or make them a part of the quest steps. You know what I mean? I feel like EP is a waste. I feel like we wasted that. I used that to get the final blows on the Solstice gear.
Or the
Like
shotgun.
it's got like it's got like your purpose, right? Or the kilo shotgun,
Mhm.
right? But like you have these things in the game that are pretty cool, blind well. They just don't hold a purpose right now.
Well, that's because there's no progression systems in the game.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Give me some of that. Like maybe I used the wrong choice of words. I think all of us would like to see new content, but we just don't think it's feasible, right?
Well, I think let me have a little bit of a tangent and a rant on
Go
that
ahead,
one.
bro.
So I am the one that is on the complete opposite side, I think, to both of your ideas here. And I think that my
Lost video,
camera
bud.
went out again. I just have to turn it back on. It's a power issue. I will get it repaired. Sorry. Okay. So
Your mic's a little wonky,
check one. You better?
a little crispy, a little crackly.
A little crackly. Is it getting better, or should I leave the call and come back?
Leave the call, come back real quick.
All right.
Sorry to do that in the middle of this thing. Oh, hi guys. Hey. Oh,
Are we better?
yep. All
Okay.
fixed.
Perfect. Sorry about that. Sorry for all the technical difficulties. Streaming is fun.
Tisk.
Right. Okay. So I very much believe that casual players are the funding for this game. When we start to talk about real cost of content, Destiny has aspirations for Destiny to be an ever changing universe that every week you log in and you get this pop up about what's changed this week and what's modified and the new weapons that are dropping. 100%, but they can't get there. They've never been able to get there. The closest they've got is to start dripping us content, which has resulted in nothing short of a player revolt over what we got with the annual pass and how we got the content from the annual pass. It felt like things were time gated. It felt like they were being dragged on. Sometimes we got like one map a week. For a new event that was launching. And I mean, some of that's okay. It's a whole nother topic. But on the casual side of things, um, I think they can make more money off of casuals than they can off the hardcore player. The simplest reason for that is because the hardcore player, like with this Solstice event, has plenty of break dust. They play the game and they engage with the game in enough that they're going to earn this stuff through normal gameplay. I mean, that goes for half of the Eververse content and stuff that they sell. It has the chance to random drop as well. At least for some of it. I think some of it now is becoming only purchase. Is that correct?
Yeah, they've actually removed that.
Okay, so they went back on that.
Yeah, it'll still drop in the Eververse store for you to buy, but it won't drop from the Bright Grounds anymore.
Right. So I think from the casual perspective, when we talk about someone that is just playing a slice of this game, doesn't really want to go against different game modes and stuff, that's where the money is. That's the people that are really shoveling money into the game, and that the issue with the balance is they also happen to make up a majority of the player base. So when we talk about how do you,
Is that a fact though? I'm not like I honestly don't know. The casual audience is making up the player base right now for Destiny. Is that what it is?
so when I talk about the casual audience, I am talking about the wider scale people that have purchased the game. The problem is we start to look at like players that have only played in the past 6 months, players that own the DLC. When I talk about the Destiny 2 player base, I am talking about people that have paid their $60 to buy this game.
Yes. Well,
And so those are the people that really are going to spend the most money, because at the end of the day, if they come back to the game, if they enjoy the experience, if Bungie can entice them with content, and believe me, that's the demographic that they're going after here with this game. When we say cater to the casual player, they're certainly catering to that player. They want to get them back into the game. So I think that a lot of times content generation goes after the demographic that they want to get back into the game, and not so much the quality of life of the player that they have in the game.
I kind of think that that's short-sighted.
Okay.
I just feel like a player that buys the game, puts it down, they're not going to really come back. And what are they really going to be spending money on? You were saying the Eververse?
So I think that they're the most likely to participate in microtransactions, because I think the people that play on a regular basis earn those rewards through regular gameplay.
Well,
They
what
don't
about
tend to
the
need to
idea
spend
that
money.
there's this idea of investment? Like the reason we can't grab bounties from our ships is because we take the time to go to the planet to grab the bounty. and then we're like, okay, well, I took the time to grab it, I need to go do it, and then we take the time to do it, and then now that we've taken the time to do it, we go back to grab more of them, and we see something at the Eververse store, and we're like, oh, I just spent an hour playing this game. Yeah, I feel like I got some decent. I don't feel too bad spending some money on it, as opposed to someone who just picks it up, plays for a little bit, and puts it down. Are they even going to know that there is an Eververse store if they're just playing it a tiny bit?
Mm-hmm. There's a good point for that, but there's also the fact that Bungie puts like a map marker on it once a week just to show off what they have. The reason they're doing that on a weekly basis and the reason they have a weekly refresh to begin with is not so much for hardcore players. It's actually more for the casual that they're trying to get to look at merchandise that haven't seen it before.
Hey, fair point, but then, okay, based on you saying that, Bungie now has openly called their game an MMO.
Correct.
And they
I
continue to
think
do
that's
that,
in
and
conflict.
that's in conflict because that would clearly be going for the hardcore, correct?
100%.
Or at least insinuating it. Okay.
But what I want to get across is I don't think when they said that they were an MMO and recognized that they were an MMO, first that's even true, because we talked about the massively thing and what it would take to really be a true MMO with an FPS experience. And that
So it's an MO.
it's an MO, right? And I think the second half of that is I don't think there's any intention on Bungie's end to stop so-called catering to the casual player. I don't think they want a hardcore only game. I think they have talked very on purpose only about the hardcore things that they want to do. Because I'm going to be honest with you, the demographic that reads the TWAB is the hardcore players. Your casual players don't really read the TWAB. That doesn't market to them. They're going to see the ads on YouTube for Shadowkeep. And they're going to see ads for New Light and see that it's free to play and jump in. And I bet they probably haven't touched the game since launch. But the other thing that I kind of want to disagree with a little bit on you with Matt is that you mentioned that someone puts the game down that purchased it for $60, that if they haven't picked up the game by now, that they just aren't going to or don't want to engage with the game. Do I have your point correct?
Yeah, more or less.
More or less, okay.
Mhm.
So I want to challenge that with I think D2 Vanilla was a pretty horrible experience, and we all agree with that. And I think that there have been a lot of good games that drop between now and then, and those guys are probably playing the Division or Apex Legends right now. But Destiny goes free to play, and they get all that year one, and I think it's just the year one content that they get for
Yep.
free. But still, they don't have that. They never purchased the DLC. They've got
Yeah.
a good excuse to jump back into the game. They've never played Gambit, right?
Yeah.
But up until this point, they had to pay to even play Gambit, and they're like, I don't want to give Bungie more money. I didn't like what they gave me for $60. Does that make sense?
No, I get what you're saying for sure. I just don't know if people are gonna get drawn back. I'm sure you're gonna have, a good core people come and try the game, but who knows if that year one content's gonna be enough for them to stay. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
think that's fair.
obviously the DLC going a la carte kind of helps because if they did want to come back, they just have to purchase the most recent DLC, and they're kind of like right back in the mix, right?
Yep.
So I guess I mean I see your point. I just don't like if a casual player put down the game. There's a reason because I felt like Destiny 2 Vanilla. I agree with you. It was a pretty horrible experience, but I also say that as a quote unquote hardcore minded player, right?
Mm-hmm.
After you got everything, there was nothing else to chase at the end of that base game.
Correct.
So that's when it got really tiring for me, and I was like, well, what the hell am I doing here? Then they brought out the prestige mode, and the only different thing you were getting was the armor that was like it changed, like it had ornaments, and it wasn't enough for me to be like, wow, this is great. So I just don't know if a casual player is going to be drawn back by the Destiny universe. I don't know.
I
You
think
kinda
what would draw them back is Shadowkeep specifically, and the
Mhm.
reason that I argue that is we haven't had story content in a year. Like the
Yeah,
people that
that's
played
true.
the base game were playing it for campaign. Curse of Osiris sucked, and they heard that in the reviews for different reasons than the story, but for the story too, right? Same with Warmind. You get to Forsaken, and it absolutely was a better story. But
Mhm.
then we went into no DLCs. Like I'm gonna buy Forsaken, I'm gonna play through this in like 4 to 6 hours, and that's all I get here. When we go back into Shadowkeep, I think there's a little bit more to talk about here in terms of story and how that ties into the actual gameplay loop. It's not just a story that is separated from the world, and I don't think it's going to be just as simple as go do a public event. I do think that the story and the new areas are very much going to kind of tie into each other, more like what we got with the Dreaming City.
All right, fair point. Face, would you like to add anything before we go wrap up the questions?
I'm a little confused as to where we're at.
Well, we're already overtime.
I mean, well, if the question is, are they... Well, okay, so I guess to wrap up, I would say I think that going from what I've seen, I would stake that Bungie has kind of the same idea I do, that a casual player is someone who just plays the game because they enjoy playing the game, and a hardcore player is someone who plays the game because they enjoy being good at it. I think that what Bungie has done kind of supports this idea, especially with like Reckoning. You can play the game, you can play a lower tier of it, but if you want to get, there's no reason to do tier 3 Reckoning other than for the only progression system in the game, which is a few different weapons, which are all basically something that we have somewhere else anyway, or that you can get from Gambit Prime. We've got Menagerie, which is a no-fail game mode, which is definitely just for people who want to chill and enjoy playing the game. And it's got some pretty decent loot tied to it that you can farm out all you want, and you can really choose what you want, which prioritizes people's time. But then you've also got Heroic. And now Heroic sucks because there's no progression system in the game, and the loot is pretty actually bad. But it's a good attempt because it really is a harder type of content that really does require you to do a certain number of extra steps in order to make sure you... in catering to both the hardcore and the casual, they lean just enough into designing content for the hardcore people. Now we have some issues like Well is a shit show and should just be removed, and Rampage and Kill Clip make perks useless in this game. But they design the content for the hardcore players, and there's still plenty of stuff for the casual people to do, especially considering that a casual player who only plays a few hours a night is not going to get really good rolls on an armor from an activity that they enjoy playing immediately. They're not spending the time it takes to get to do all of your Menagerie runs every week. And I don't know, maybe some of them got peer pressured into running back and forth, but most of them were probably like, that's no fun, I'm not going to do that. I don't think that catering to the two has to be mutually exclusive. I think it's actually better for both when they try and cater to both. Not too much. They shouldn't be like right down the middle. But providing activities like normal Menagerie that also have a heroic mode, or things like Crown of Sorrows, doing it 3-man was difficult and a lot of fun because you had to play in a way that you normally don't have to play.
But you're making your own game.
They should add some progression systems that would support me doing that sort of thing, so it's not just I decided to do this and I had fun doing it. But for the most part, the raid isn't that difficult other than speed running it or doing flawless.
Now, Face, are you saying they should lean more into hardcore stuff but still make casual content? Is that what you're saying?
I would say don't make too much stuff that is unobtainable, in the fact that like you could grind against Crucible forever and never get Recluse, because if you don't win positively, you're going to lose glory points.
So you like Revoker better, where that's moving into a quest where you just have to achieve glory over time.
Yeah, the game, to discuss whether or not they should lean towards hardcore or casual players, you kind of have to touch on like what is about the game that doesn't work. If they don't fix some of these things, like adding progression systems, which I think the artifact and armor mods are going to help with a lot, then they're not going to be able to win either group, because we saw what happened when they lead toward casuals. But I think that giving stuff for hardcore players, if it's something that a hardcore player is going to finish in a week, how long is it going to take a casual player? A month? 2 months? They're going to have stuff to do. They just, do they want to do it, and do they enjoy playing the game, which is a different question.
Rapid, sure, I guess I'm going to let you wrap up, and then we're going to move on to questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to summarize kind of the topic and where we're at, I think that Destiny 2 is a game that has tried to ride that line between the casual and the hardcore for a really long time. I think Bungie should not do that. I really think they should kind of pick one or the other, and I think make some compromises or inroads to make sure that the other isn't completely abandoned. But the unfortunate reality of that decision is player-based shrinkage. You know, we're going to lose players with this game if we start choosing just the hardcore. And there are some things that really only open up when you have really high player counts. Destiny 2 needs to make a lot of money to produce content at the level that they are producing it. You know, if we go down to a more hardcore focused game, that may be a decision against some better graphics or types of content that we may be getting otherwise that are just superfluous to that type of experience.
All right. This is pretty intense, actually. I'm not going to lie. Well, let's move on to our question segment, question and answers. So we got one from Ed, actually. And he asks, do any of you guys think that the Destiny story will progress in Shadowkeep? Go ahead, Face.
If you mean the Destiny story is in the light and dark as a whole, uh,
Do you mean just like
yes.
cinematics in general?
Like it's not going to be like Forges where we didn't really get any story
Mm-hmm.
info.
So he's saying more along the lines of like cutscenes and actual like driven story
Okay, I would say
within the game.
I don't think that the story of Destiny is really the story of the light versus the dark, but rather the story of humanity trying to survive through all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that will definitely that's kind of always been addressed, and that's kind of a cop out answer too, because that's saying, well, everything is just us progressing against the dark. But I definitely think that we're going to learn more about it because some of the stuff in the Bad Juju quest line and other things that point to the Hellmouth being a thing again.
I think Bungie has really changed how they're going to release quote unquote story content for this game. I think that the Curse of Osiris and Warmind type models are dead, and we are on version 2.0. And version 2.0 does not mean that there is going to be no cutscenes. But I do think we can expect that if there are cutscenes, they're closer to what we got with the Invitation of the Nine, where there's something that is going to intro a longer quest that is told over many weeks. I am really hyped and think that what they're going to go into here is what they did with Forsaken and the Dreaming City, where this is story content that you are not going to be able to race through and be done with in 6 hours, but are going to be told on multiple different levels, from the lore to the descriptions on the guns that are going to drop, to special cutscenes or missions that you might run that are unique to that. Think 0 Hour, think Whisper Quest. I think we're going to see the actual story of the game tie into some of the loot we're going to see this season.
Like Marosov also at the Dreaming City, right?
Exactly
Yeah, that was really
that.
cool stuff. Yeah.
Yep. I think they received a lot of good player feedback, and I think we're right at the season where we can expect some of that feedback to start leaking out.
Awesome, guys. All right. I got a Twitter question from Flicky. Guys, if you haven't followed the Twitter, please go on and do so. We're at Apex1. So he goes, his question for today's podcast is, what changes do you think Bungie will make to the Crucible with Shadowkeep, and what do you hope they will do? Go ahead, Rapid. You could kick us off.
New maps. I really hope
New
new
maps, for
maps. It's
sure.
been so long. I think that if I was going to do one thing to change the PvP experience, big maps. We need
I honestly
bigger
agree with
maps.
that. We have everything has been catered for this 4v4 for so long that honestly, for my opinion, the best maps that we have in Destiny 2 right now are the Destiny 1 maps because they're catered to 6v6 when you're playing quick play. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I know we're getting at least Widow's Court back, I think, or a variant of it, and that's pretty exciting. That was a fun map. But
I
For
would love
me,
to see a PvP map where I have to pull out my Sparrow, or could.
right? I mean, you used to be able to, in a couple of them in Destiny 1. I don't remember their names, but I remember there was a moon map. It was pretty large, and you could do all that kind of stuff on there. For me, I definitely want to see big changes in PvP. I want them to completely revamp it. I don't like it at all. Competitive could actually just be thrown away. If you ask me, it's a horrible system. It's not balanced because of the decisions Bungie makes between PvE and PvP. So I think they need to rework that completely. Hopefully they started. I have no idea. Um, what else? God, I honestly, I was gonna say stuff about the raid, but everything I'm hearing about this raid experience, it dropping Saturday for the raid race, giving us 4 full days to grind for it. I think that's honestly perfect. I wouldn't change the way they're doing the end game content in terms of raids, but yeah, that's really all from me. Face.
I would say as far as PvP goes, I kind of want them to decide if it's an ability game or a gun game.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a gun game, let's see more focus on that. Have different types of guns that do different things instead of like hand cannons and pulse rifles. Oh my,
Mm-hmm.
their gunplay is not bad, but I think that because we have so many abilities in the game, you either have to really like spec into your abilities, and then you end up bottom tree strikering the entire map, or
Yeah.
mid tree whatever that's called, mid tree
I just
slicey boy.
it's a really bad place right now. Dado made a video about this. You guys should go check it out. He literally talks about how like the first like half of PvP is okay, like you're getting your kills, it's fun, and then right after the super switch comes on, and everybody's running around with supers that never seem to end. Heavy's always available. It just becomes this game that it's like, do we have guns or is it just like power ammo and heavy guns and supers and abilities? So I just think they need to start over completely. For me, have heavy drop once a match if they're gonna even involve heavy, right? Like they did this in Destiny 1, and I don't know why they kind of broke away from that. You have it drop once a match. You know, you either get it or you don't. But after a while, it's gone, and you can kind of just continue your match. Um, I just don't know with the current PvP. It definitely needs a refresh, and I'm excited to see what they have in store.
I'm just not sure we can expect anything very quickly.
No, I
And
don't think we're gonna get big changes now. I think it's coming after Shadowkeep, to be honest.
yes, I agree with that
Yeah.
100%. I think we might see something change, but I really think they're just going to talk about things at this point. I don't think they have anything concrete to talk about
You
in
think
the
so
next
though? They
couple
have
weeks.
that invitation to the Crucible thing though, which makes me like, oh, what can that be?
Maybe I'm just trying not to be overhyped here, but
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm really thinking when we start talking about like, is the Trials of the Nine coming back?
Well, no, I
Like,
didn't say that because I
that's
wanted to say
December
that.
at best. That's December at best.
Yeah.
I'm being honest.
I mean, if they bring Trials back the way it was, I think for me that opens up bigger doors for Destiny the game. Where when they had this mode in Destiny 1, I know everybody hates that I come back to Destiny 1, but when they had Trials every weekend, that game was a top 10 stream game on Twitch. People knew about Destiny. People came to play Destiny just for that mode. So at least lean back into that somehow. Make it more like it was. I know they might not want to fully do the elimination thing. I'm not sure, but I know when they brought it back in Destiny 2, it was completely different with the countdown and survival 4v4, and I believe the weapons were just balanced in a completely different way with the team shots and stuff.
I'm gonna be
Just
honest with you. Trials of the Nine has to come back after we fix PvP. Because
yeah,
if Trials of the Nine comes back in the middle of this PvP, I don't know how you make that better than it was. I think
yeah,
there's a lot of people that just want back what they had, so we at least
yeah,
have something. But in
yeah.
terms of Bungie saying that this was not the pinnacle experience that they wanted, that means it's coming back with significant changes, and they haven't done anything with PvP in almost a year. There's a lot of preparation that needs to go
Yeah.
in place before they can launch that.
Well, I'm just hoping that preparation's actually been like, taking place in that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because we
I
haven't
want to
got anything.
believe. I want to
Yeah.
believe they've been working on PvP all this time, but I really think, to be honest with you, they've been looking for PvP people. I think they've been trying to grow that team and show more respect to that team, and I do think eventually we're going to see the fruits of that labor. But I don't think that this is something that I would be hyped for with Shadowkeep specifically.
Fair. Anything to add there, Face?
No.
No. I think that's
As I'd be fine with the PvP season. It'll be interesting. Just I don't know. I dislike it when balance changes come around to PvE because of PvP, and I also have had very bad experiences with PvP mains. So I'm not entirely looking forward to that becoming a big part of the community again. But we'll see what happens.
fair point. Fair point. Yeah, I mean, I would love dedicated servers, Ed. I just don't know if that's in the cards. That's a big investment. So I mean, if they do it, I'm gonna be hyped as hell about it. But I just don't see that
I
being
find
likely.
a major overhaul to PvP. I hear that, and I think like we're making it so that you can't use supers, and it's going to be a gun game going forward.
Yeah, like drastic changes to what we already have. Like maybe heavy not spawning as much. I just don't think dedicated servers are in the cards.
Yeah.
For at least Destiny 2.
PvP is definitely its own podcast. There's a lot to talk about there.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But yeah, that's all the time we have because we went over quite a bit now. I'd like to thank Rapid for coming. Appreciate you filling in for Legion. You did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yay. Hey, man. We might call upon you again. So, our links for everything are down below. We have a Discord link. We have our own individual Twitter handles. We also have a YouTube channel. You guys should check that out because I'm going to post this there probably tomorrow. And apparently we are brought to you by Apex the Clan, just so you guys know. So we are advertising ourselves there.
I am me.
That's great.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Until next time.